Hello and welcome to HNL Classics. Today we're going to take you through some of the visual differences that you would see on the first generation R129 as well as the facelifted version of the R129. This would hopefully be helpful to you if you're looking to buy an R129 and whether it is an all-original, unmolested car. Useful especially if you're a collector and you value originality of the car and you would know what is accurate to the model year of your car. Quite often when you look at an R129, many of them have gone through several owners and several upgrades, several changes, and it will be good to know that you get what you're paying for. And if you're looking for an all-original car, it can be fairly costly to undo some of the modifications done to the car if it has been upgraded or changed with certain parts. And as you know, the R129 is starting to become a collector's car. Parts are starting to become scarce, so it's good if you find a car that's all original to your liking before you make a purchase on that. Here we have a 1991 Mercedes-Benz 300 SL24 in pearl blue metallic, as well as a 1995 Mercedes-Benz SL320 in azurite blue metallic. We have updated this video as there were a few inaccuracies in our previous video that our viewers pointed out that we would like to correct. The R129 had two facelifts over its production run from 1989 to 2001, with the first facelift around 1995 and the second facelift around 1998. In this video, we are comparing the pre-facelift R129 or first generation and the facelifted version in 1995 or second generation. For the first generation Mercedes-Benz R129, most of them came in a two-tone paint finish, as you can see here. For this one, the metalwork is finished in pearl blue metallic, whereas the lower cladding is finished in andor blue metallic. Normally, the metalwork would be in a high gloss finish, whereas the lower cladding, or the sacco panels as people would call it, are finished in a satin type of clear coat. As you can see here, for this particular car, this is incorrect. We'll get this sorted out in time. It's supposed to be a satin type of half semi-matte finish, and you can pretty much tell if it's still original paint or whether it's been repainted in the correct manner. And we have rectified the paint on the lower cladding, and this is how the satin finish should look like on the first generation R129. For the facelift, the sacco panels and bumpers are now body color, also finished in high gloss together with the metalwork. On the exterior, you notice there are several key differences between the pre-facelift and the facelifted version of the R129. So let me start by taking you through some of the differences on the front of the car. The facelifted version of the R129, it came with xenon headlights as well as clear front turn signals. The grille itself comes with 6 slats as per all facelift models, and if you were to compare this to the first generation R129, the headlights are standard halogen headlights with the classic amber turn signals as well. The grille is 7 slats. Here you can see there are 7 in total compared to the facelifted version of 6 slats. Here the front bumper design of the facelift and the pre-facelifted versions are different as well. The first generation pre-facelifted R129 has plainer and more angular bumpers as compared to the facelifted version that is more streamlined and rounded at the edges. The fog lamps are also different, so if you're planning to replace your fog lamps, do know that they are not interchangeable, so you have to get fog lamps that are specific to your car. Moving on to the side of the car, for the first generation R129, it comes with 3 rectangular slats on the side fenders, and also the side repeaters are amber in color as well. Whereas for the facelift, they converted it into 2 rounded vents instead. Additionally, all the sacco panels on the side are different for the pre-facelift R129 as well as the facelifted version. Even the side skirts are also different. The first generation side skirts have a bit of a flare coming out to make it a little bit more angular, whereas the facelifted version is more rounded towards the bottom. Even the small little jack hole covers are also different, and they are not interchangeable in this case. Moving on to the rear of the car, for the first generation R129, it comes with the classic ribbed type of taillights. The ribbed taillights were actually designed with safety in mind to prevent dirt, mud or snow from accumulating in the taillights, therefore obstructing the visibility of the lights when driving. The second generation facelifted R129 taillights retain the rib style as per the pre-facelift with a slight difference. The turn signal lenses change from amber to have a redder hue, as you can see here. Only cars from 1998 onwards had the more streamlined taillights, and this was one detail that we stated inaccurately in our previous video. At the time we recorded the video, this 1995 SL320 had incorrect taillights fitted. Now moving on. For the pre-facelifted cars, because the R129 debuted in 1989, the designation of the car was still following the old convention of having the model designation at the rear, so hence 300SL, 500SL, so on and so forth, whereas starting from 1993 for the 1994 model year, the R129s were redesignated altogether with the other Mercedes-Benz models, whereby the models were at the front, such as this SL320. And likewise as with the front bumpers as well, the rear bumpers for the first generation R129 of the more angular and plain design, whereas the facelifted R129 has a sleeker and more rounded bumpers at the rear. Continuing on the trunk, you would see that there's an infrared sensor at the bottom of the trunk lock for the first generation R129, and in the facelifted version they omitted the infrared sensor because they have moved the infrared sensor to the rear view mirror of the car, which brings us to the differences of the interior of the R129. One of the biggest differences of the interior that you notice are in the door cards. The first generation R129 had a very angular door card. There are very straight lines all across, whereas in the facelifted version they streamlined the design of the door card to make things look more integrated here. In the pre-facelift version it comes with these paddles to lock and unlock your door, whereas in the facelifted version you have the more common door lock tabs on the top of the door cards, as you can see here. Another noticeable difference in the R129 is the seat cushion design. In the pre-facelift version, the seat cushion design is simpler with straight lines, whereas in the facelifted version, they've changed the seat cushion design to look like this. It's got more curves and more detail to it as compared to the pre-facelifted version. One of the last major differences that you can find in the interior would be in the instrument cluster. The first generation came with analog clusters for the trip meter and the odometer, as opposed to the digital readings that we would find in the facelifted version. Quite often you may find a digital instrument cluster in the first generation R129, and there could be a legitimate reason for that. The analog trip meter and odometer frequently breaks because it's powered by gears at the back, and if you were to send it to an official Mercedes-Benz service center to get it fixed, they may quite likely replace it with a brand new digital instrument cluster for you. Just so that you know, the analog trip meter and odometer are repairable. There are specialists who can help remanufacture the gears and to replace the broken gears in the odometer and trip meter to get your analog instrument cluster working again. And finally, moving on to the trunk, one design change that happened in the facelifted version is the trunk fuse box cover. As you can see here, in the first generation, the fuse box cover is flat, whereas in the facelifted version, they've changed the design of the fuse box cover, as you can see here. So these are just some of the major cosmetic differences that we'd like to highlight as part of this video. No doubt there are many more changes to the R129 as it was produced between 1989 to 2001 that we didn't cover as part of this video. And as you learn more about this car and as you read more about it, no doubt you'll be able to spot a lot more differences than we've covered here. Hopefully that was useful for you, and as always, thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.